through your ennui out, which consumes itself through the depths of your house, the center of your chest, slowly making memory spurious. Cut it out completely. Give room to those still with you. Give room to the facts that are all around slowly constricting your perforated existence. Let your ancient pain rise to the surface. Let your wrinkled face shatter. Let the sound rip through yourself.
There's no mention that they spent outdoors, the childhood, because it was the man he knew. It was the light. And he loved the man so much. He was sorry he never saw the boy, as with his tiny red tongue he molded his first words, as if trying to recall a dream, as if realizing, my dad has the same name, as if his father was God. John had seen the light, but couldn't hold on to it, so he wrote it. My dad's a John too, but from his name, no one thinks of the original. Only those write about writing who first were first, nor did John respond to the miracle with his own life. My dad never said, I should write that God might exist. John chose the moment he filtered through. But even if he filters through, it's never through a single man, but through all mankind. My dad never said you could believe in something simply because it was written well. But he spoke of the temple of his own body. In the beginning was the Word, and time sputters synonyms. John's, up to the Heavenly Father. I deny every word of my own.
The prettier the coastline, the deadlier it is, so you used to say. This time of year only the pulmonary patients from the sanatorium come here for their lengthy constitutionals. It gets cold at night, cold as the relative tense. We sit in silence as if by the coast. And then I think of those water rescue dogs that stop you swimming, and how I can't stand when something sinks.
For Lily Kemény. There is no first and so no last word either. There's nothing to be said, though that's been said too. I don't know if we'll have the strength to ask. This fish is not a fish. As yet another garbage island is cleared up, and we want to believe what we can't see doesn't exist, but let's. It will soon be born by the sea. People say you can't believe anything. Who couldn't recall the image of a sea turtle shriveled to an hourglass, caught in the plastic six-pack snare? It doesn't bear remembering propaganda. What more is this fish not? We live here inside it, trying to cling to its slippery body, parasitic nightmares of the whale body, equally rightful pretenders to existence. This, of course, was not a mere translation, and we are not slowly cashing in on a Magritte wave curtailed of its own mediality. What more is it not? More. All right, it's not a motif, for instance. It's not even a metaphor. It would be too simple as a metaphor. We live here, unaware of our mission, Though if we were, we'd still be living here, escaping and squandering the involuntary calling, fleeing, cuddling up to an external structure on the projection free of resistance. For instance, on the wheelie, a cheap association. Have I ever written the word inertia? Who's calling and where to? And how should it move forward, this gigantic displaced space, with a flap of its little flipper? Is it a word explanation, this loathed meta-narrative? Or do we just want to believe in something and let that be the whale body? Believing in a metaphorical body. Never have heard the like. So it is metaphorical after all? In the whale body, we meet only the little whale, left to its fate in the tautological whale body.
He hated order. The promise of fire dissolved inside him in the noise of thunder. He could not bear his spirit being trapped in a vice. Lava suppresses orders. Goodness has no space there. Even Rhea he loved only, so he could lock her in the orbit of his appetite. True passion does not decide people's fates. He imprisoned her in his hands, in the tree roots that formed about his body, and never even looked at her. Then she remained alone, her eyes yet brighter, till her clumsy female body cracked, and she thrust a new face into mortality, a face like his. That he had to swallow. His roots suppressed the rising body. There was to be no flowering once broken, without a trunk, no allowing a helpless ember to start glowing, no sudden realization between two voids that one should not leave, an air or God, no kind of pleasure. Because even immortal life, when subject to fate, makes one nervous, like the earth-sky horizon line on the sea, stuck between mother and father, while shoreless within. He saw it in Rhea's deepening iris, understood what order required, that each new generation locked out his heart. To look on children was like searching about in a heart current and finding in place of her eyes 2 stones.
Is your flat still very far away, sir? I'm cold in this broken night, and it is hard to step while I shiver. We need something, so we do not feel anything at all. This pain should be scrubbed out somehow. Maybe if the world would put a leak on me and pull everything out. Maybe if this body could be emptied out, turned out of itself, the soul would also finally come out too. Sometimes I stand around at the station, looking at the smiling women as they laugh, walk, talk in their pretty dresses. And then I think that maybe one day they will be lined up, all of them stripped naked, and who knows what they will do to them before their execution. Sometimes all I can see is disrupted bodies everywhere, and I'm trying to find a spot where hope cracks, where the death will step and be stuck between the days. There is not enough beauty, not enough reality for me to let go of the dream, sir. I often keep my eyes shut all day. Everything is easier that way. Because everything keeps washing, pulling and whipping us, just like the sea. You have to stand with empty hands and let it be, so we get used to the punches. Because we slowly get used to everything. That's how simple people are. The sea, sir, the sea is what slowly eats everything off of us. We just have to hang our legs and arms into the water, and the salt will slowly burn everything off that it needs. Salt has it easy. It paints the body white when taken out of the water, sparks in the sunlight and splits. That's how I saw my father into the sea. But I hung him into the water for nothing. He didn't get smaller, his shadow didn't fade. He just stood there straight as an arrow, immersed in water, and waited for me to look into his eyes and get used to him being dead. He was waiting for my gaze, to find his eye and finally unleash him from myself.
The obelisks and ice needles can be seen. Somewhere central, in line with the left corner of the eye, they would rise above the plane of the glacier if the shrinking pupil of an ice field was not a black hole, and the sea of shards around it a grayish-green mush, when the opiates force it to constrict. We stare at the long plywood banding curling up from the edge of the tabletop. The glue must have let go long ago. Its spiral leads our gaze to the white sheet covering the bed, and to the tube sticking out of the paw, while they tell us to be prepared. First, they will mainline you with the stunning injection, and though your eyes will still stay open while narcotized, we shouldn't be frightened. You don't sense the outer world anymore. Only after do you get the second dose, T61, ibutramide. First it stops your breathing, then the circulation, until finally the muscles relax. Involuntary urination and defecation may occur, sudden contractions, and as the snow starts to thaw in the cirque, the water seeps in at the cracks and permeates the entire mass of the fern, finally exiting in form of a creek through the glacier gate. This may be followed by unexpected sounds and sudden convulsions. At this point, relatives often leave the room. But fear not, Greenland. We are here. We'll hold your head throughout. We'll stay by your side until your departure. Then we'll drive home in our speechless cars. Out back, we'll bury you in the yard and tell ourselves that we did it all for you. In the afternoon, when for a moment we close our eyes, we'll feel something carry out a slow, continuous slide towards the edges of sleep. Sled dogs up to their ankles, wading in the melting ice. And outside, past the window, flickers a drowsy Sunday. Somewhere not too far, an angle grinder drones.
She comes among us to scatter snow, but her flesh is warm, and mercy is of as much interest to her as where she lives, the weather there. It's of no comfort she'll be remembered. In good time she was blessed, and her cells leapt forth, ran off, while she remained alone at home. And now something's growing inside her. Not anger, it's male. There's a Tessa, it's life. Never mind God, he's not even her own son. She's vaster than the Creator. She has a body. Mary is struck by the unsettling feeling that she is the very likeness of herself, and the feathery nothing is making a nest for the newly arrived. And as I stroll towards her in thought, Mary appears, with Mary, hand in hand. Countless voices trimming her horizon, her sight stretches into the distance, until in an unguarded moment, which might be best compared to pain, she tears the heavens down.
You have to laugh at those aging thighs when they sag a little, propping up the torso. They struggle even downhill on a slope, the thinning beard, the sparse body hair, a transparent layer to veil the body the way the knowledge of death is a cataract on the soul. Hang on and laugh if your desire should flower among weeds, if the orphan blossom of early winter shares your fate and launches an avalanche, a generation. The word is weed, but out of its loins springs a promise to the faithless to reproduce at last, in vain. Laugh at yourself and hang on to your stick as to the present day. Grin with your toothless gums between aged thighs, as if Sarah were giving birth into the wind, the child had uprooted marrow, and carve your old face henceforth into the newborn, into its infant mouth, and laugh, laugh at Isaac.
We echo each other's words. This way we become reverberations ourselves. We don't know where we are, why a new bearing can be born from the constant loss of oneself. We consume what we need. We discharge what we don't. A different chaos nests in our footsteps, but it doesn't empathize. The foghorn cries out. The fleet of cargo vessels slip their anchors to its sound. Its high price margin cargo is fixed amidst the swell. The durable material travels towards a slow half-life. The prow cuts through the water. The indifference of solid steel slits the holding ocean into two liquid strands. Our siblings in the water cannot avoid craze. They are moving objects on our radars. We are program errors on theirs. Their awaited messengers are dissolved in the oil-dense cacophony. We echo each other's words, but we are not each other's points of reference. Deafening solitude. Noise and logic.
It begins when confused frogs fall before your feet in the hailstorm. They accept you to grow branches above them and take root with stretched out arms. It begins when deep pits tip things over, the ground shaking under your feet, but the city-sized black circles around you remain infrangible. It begins when the moon unexpectedly enshrouds the sun. Even the best astronomers stare at it with disbelief. Wagons and bodies collide because the lamps are lit only for you. It begins when a screeching scream cracks all the air drums, knocking down bridges, confusing the birds fly, but as soon as you start talking, all becomes quiet. It begins when Earth starts perspiring from within. New islands emerge over the hot locations, volcanoes erupt in simulcast and bury those who are far away from you deep. It begins when a lonely infant lies silently in the beach before the flood died, but you are not living, because your heart breaks and you start crying. This is how it begins.